Praise the Lord, saints of God. This is Elder Adrian Hammond. And in my last post, I talked about our president wanting Greenland. But I did kind of leave you hanging a little bit regarding as to the implications if Trump takes Greenland and the possibility of NATO breaking up is real. And I told you I would equate this to one of the signs of the times, which I want to talk to you right now about. One of the things that will precipitate the Lord's coming, not the rapture, but his coming, is there must be a man of sin that will take over the world. He must have a base of power. And that base of power, now, of course, this is going to take a lot of explaining to do that I don't have in this 15 minutes or so of time that I'm going to take here. But suffice it to say that the base of this man of sin, better known as Antichrist, better known as the beast in Revelation, that his base will be on what, at least partially on the land formerly known as the Roman Empire. The nations that consist, at least partially, of the Roman Empire are in Europe. Europe is the main component in terms of country-wise of NATO. Of course, there's outliers like Turkey, Canada, U.S. But what if the U.S. splits up from NATO? And I want you to hear what some of the politicians from Europe are saying. They don't want the U.S. to leave. Understand, they don't want the U.S. to leave. But if the U.S. does, they've come to a realization that they've been depending upon the U.S. for too long. And that we need to start building up our own armies, navies, Air Force, whatever armed forces they have. Now, because they're already working in tandem with each other, it's not going to be just the German army versus the French army versus the British army versus the Spanish army versus the Italian army versus the Danish army versus the Dutch army versus the Norwegian army, and so on. They're going to combine into one because they need to be able to preserve their countries. After all, you have the U.S. being a bully over here. You have Russia being a bully over there. And China is the one that's in the east. So then, in order for you to not to get ran over by either one of those three powers, they have to band together. And they have to band. And there will be someone that takes advantage of this power. Now, it may not come within the next 5 years or 10 years. It may not come within the next 20, 30 years. But if the U.S. should leave NATO, it will force the Europeans to fend for themselves. And they will come more closely together and form a more, dare I say, perfect union. And as they form this perfect union, so to speak, even though they have different languages and so on, it will be much easier for them to coalesce if there's someone with enough charisma, with enough power, with enough drawing ability to bring them all together and unite under one organization. The countries are there. The powers are willing to give some of their sovereignty if there is a person who will be looking after their interests. You say, well, what about the U.S.? I'll talk about that one too at a later time. What about the U.S.? See, we think that because we currently are arguably the most powerful nation in the world, or has ever been on earth, due to our armies, our navies, our technological power, by our economy, by our plethora of nuclear weapons that could be fired from land, from sea, from air, all these various things that we are able to bring to bear on a particular area. But the key here, saints of God, is that the U.S. does not figure in Bible prophecy. Russia figures in Bible prophecy. China figures in Bible prophecy. Europe, as part of the Roman Empire, as part of what was known as the beast, 7 heads and 10 horns, that's part of the prophecy. The U.S. is not part of prophecy. That either means that one or two things happen. Either we're destroyed, which I pray that we're not, or that we just lose our importance. We're not hooked up with other countries, other places. If that's the case, we're headed that way now. We're breaking all of our relationships with friendly countries. We're treating them as antagonizing forces. As we're thinking only about ourselves, as we by ourselves. So maybe this wouldn't have been a thought 5, 10 years ago, but it's very, very, what do you call it? It's very appropriate now. So saints, watch for it. I may talk more about it, but understand, time is growing short and things are coming together. God bless you in Jesus' name.